Welcome back to the channel. Today we want to talk about renting a place in Italy. It is a very different experience than renting in the US. So let's begin.
Okay, let's start by talking about the different types of rental agreements. There's short-term and long-term. Normally a short-term agreement is anywhere from 3 to 18 months. Yeah, that's right. 18 months is still considered short-term. It's ideal for tourists, students, people just wanting that flexibility to move around Italy and see what's right for them.
So for long-term contracts, it's a multiple year contract. For example, you could see something that says 3+2 or 4+4, okay? So these are pretty common leases. For example, if you see something that says 3+2, it means that the initial period is 3 years and then automatically renews for 2 more years at the same terms, of course, as long as everybody is on the same page, landlord and tenant.
Yeah, so that first 3 years, your rent stays the same. Now, the next 2 years, either party can opt out of the contract. And normally the rent may not even go up that much at all. Maybe 20, 30 euros. It just depends on what area you're in and what the economic situation is.
Now, and the same thing, if you see something that says 4+4, it's similar to the 3+2, but the initial period will be 4 years. For example, in our case, we have a 6+2 agreement. So that means the contract is a 6-year contract, and then we can renew for 2 more years.
And that stability really is nice to know that your rent payment is going to stay the same for 6 years. Unlike the United States, where your lease is up after 12 months and your rent goes up $100 to $200. So it's really nice that the rents stay pretty much the same for that long.
Now, the renewal process, many lease agreements in Italy include, provisions that the lease will be renewed. So this allows the tenants to extend their stay in the property, and of course, the renewal periods could vary.
Yes.
Okay, let's move on to the second point, deposit. Asking for a deposit of 2 months' rent is very common. This should be returned to you, of course, when you move out, and the landlord checks that, nothing has been damaged in the property.
And you can also see sometimes where they ask for 3 months' rent, so it's normal.
Yes, especially if you don't have a history in the country. Now, if somebody is asking you for cash payments for, 1,000 euros, things like that, that means they are trying to rent to you under the table, and it could be a scam. So make sure that, you keep your eyes open on that stuff.
Yes, when they're talking about cash, red flags should appearing. It's not a good thing. So.
There is a realtor fee. If you find an apartment that, you're using a realtor, let's say, then you would typically pay them a 1 month rent as a fee. That is basically the norm here. It's taken as a finder's fee, basically. Now, this fee is not applied to your deposit. So this is a complete separate thing, and it's just a fee.
So what do you get with that fee? Well, your realtor writes the contract, the lease agreement. And in our case, we went to our realtor's office. He sat down there with the landlord and us, read the contract. We initialed each page, and he explained everything to us.
And when it comes to paperwork, in Italy, it's a lot more complicated than in the States. In the States, it's pretty straightforward. Here, it's not. So if you are not fluent in Italian and you have no idea how laws and regulations work, you're better off, going with a realtor.
And you can find realtors that speak English, so it can happen.
Okay, let's move on to number 3. Furnished apartments versus unfurnished apartments.
Exactly. What does that mean, right? So unfurnished apartments means just that, no furniture. And sometimes not even a kitchen is installed. So you have to look out and make sure what you're getting yourself into, if it has a kitchen or not.
And it is said that usually the longer rental agreements, you will have to put in a kitchen, even light fixtures and things like that. But in our case, we have a 6-year contract, a 6+2, And we were lucky that the apartment was renovated and, had a kitchen and all that stuff and some furniture.
Yes, partially furnished. A lot of the big items like a couch and beds. Because when we came to Italy, all we had was 4 suitcases.
Exactly.
So we needed that. And even the kitchen, the landlord had some set of dishes, some coffee cups, some silverware. We still had to buy some more stuff for the kitchen, but it came with some, base items. It was nice.
So furnished rental apartments that you can have are the ones that come equipped with furniture. And in some cases, they are, completed with pictures on the wall and everything. So it all depends on what you're looking for.
Yeah. Some of the places look like they were Airbnbs. They come with so much furnishings and equipment. So they're out there.
And also you have to check that if you have something that is, completely furnished and things like that, the rent might be higher than the ones that are not. Okay, so we're mentioning long-term contracts. So in your mind, because in the U.S. you are used to the 1 year and that's it, you're thinking, okay, do I have to stay for 6 years or 4 years in that apartment? No. You can terminate your lease. Now, most leases require a 3 to 6 month termination notice. But to give notice to the landlord, you cannot just simply, send a text message. You have to do a certified letter saying that you're going to leave the property.
Yeah, it has to be some form of registered notification to cover yourself that you gave notice.
Also, on the tenant side, if you need to move out and you give the proper, notice and all that, it's okay. Okay, I'm moving out in 6 months. Now, from the landlord side, they really have to have a good justification to kick you out of the property. So it's not that simple.
Right. And remember, we talked about a 4 plus 2, for example. Well, that last 2 years, if he doesn't want you there, he has to give an excuse. And normally it's like, say they have a family member that needs a place to stay or something like that. Those are the kind of reasons why they don't renew you. Trust me, they want you there if you're paying your rent and everything and being a good tenant.
Okay, so let's move on to number 5. And this is a big difference between the U.S. and Italy. Realtors don't share.
Yeah, and it can be very frustrating at first to learn about this.
Mm-hmm. So in the U.S., you go to one agency and this realtor will show you properties that are listed through, I don't know, 20...
throughout the whole city.
Yeah, 20 different realtors, doesn't matter, right? Because they have the multiple listings. Okay, and they share the commission. Well, in Italy, they don't share. So if you see, let's say you want to see 5 properties, and all 5 properties are listed by 5 different agencies, you will have to go and visit each agent.
And request to see the property.
Yes.
And we've even heard stories where people in the same office don't share commissions. So when you call the office, they won't take a message or anything. They'll tell you to call back when your agent's back in the office. Though we didn't deal with that, we just heard stories about it.
Now, another thing is, it could be frustrating that realtors might not even return your phone call. So physically, you have to go to the actual office and show up and, inquire.
We were very persistent. Mm-hmm. We wanted a place quickly, and we kind of knew what we had to do. So you have to really, it's not for the timid. You really need to be aggressive when it comes to finding a place and finishing up and getting it.
Okay, so let's move on to the last point of differences, is that not staging.
Yeah. You'll go to some of these websites and look at properties and the photos, and it's like they didn't even attempt to clean the property. It's very lived in. We've even seen pictures of people with like folded clothes on the bed and dishes in the sink. It's like, it's not the same like in the United States where they have a model unit and they put their best foot forward. You just kind of have to look past that.
Mm-hmm. Now, they do study to stage a little bit in the tourist spots where they are trying to attract foreigners.
Yes.
But the norm is really not to stage.
Yeah, we've noticed that. We've noticed in the high traffic expat areas that those properties seem to have more staging, say non-expat or immigrant parts of town.
Okay, so those are the 6 main differences. Now, one more thing. When you sign a contract in Italy, The contract is not binding until you are registered that contract, that lease, in the Agencia del Entrate, which is the tax agency here in Italy. And you will need to have that registered copy to be able to file for residency and to connect your utilities. That's another story altogether.
And it's not just a copy of the lease, it's actually a different document saying that your lease is registered with the government. And not only that, you also you're going to get a copy of your lease. You want to have that with you as well, because when you're going through the process, people are going to want to see that.
Mm-hmm. So, and one more thing, this all applies if you are renting an entire apartment. If you're just renting a room because you are a student or things like that, then your contract will likely be informal because it's a one-on-one with whoever the owner of the apartment is.
And for immigration reasons, they might write a letter stating that you live there and what the situation is.
Mm-hmm. So what do you think of these differences? We hope you find this information useful.
Yeah, and if you've done this process here in Italy, in the comments, let us know what your process was like, if it was different than ours.
Mm-hmm. So we hope to see you in the next one.